Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I am Sam. I'm an artist and illustrator coming to you from Dublin in Ireland. And you can find me around the internet looking for Irish farm art or on Instagram with an Irish knitting podcast. Thank you so much for all the new viewers. We have had about 30 new viewers, which in the gram scheme of YouTube is nothing, but for me it really means a lot. So we reached the bar of the 4,000 subscribers, which is a massive achievement. I said this before, but if I had to imagine myself in front of 4,000 people, I would feel this small and I would never speak in front of all these people. So thank you so much, it really fills my heart. This is my attempt of a knitting podcast and usually I talk about my finished works, works in progress, acquisitions and a classic knitting podcast type of thing. Although today, for a couple of reasons, I really don't have much to share. So it will be a little bit different. I asked my lovely friends on Instagram to ask me any questions that you may have. So this could be a little bit of a get to know me and I would love to know you as well type of video. And yeah, I'm overwhelmed with the amount of questions. I've run a Q&A before, I filmed a Q&A video before, and that was really interesting. I could never tackle all the questions because there were so many, and this other time around, yeah, it's kind of the same. But I pick a few that we may go through together later on in the podcast. Today as well I need to sort the knit along prize situation. So as you remember from my last video, we had three prizes, a lovely voucher offered by Susan by the Wild Cottage Knitting Podcast. It's a really generous prize, a skein of yarn and as well a couple of patterns. So the three prizes went to their winners, and we do have still to redraw the first prize, the lovely voucher for yarn that Suzanne gifted to this KAL. So that will come at the end. I don't know if I'm making sense this morning. It's very early in the morning and I haven't got my coffee yet, so never mind. Let's talk about the little bit of knitting that I managed to do this week. And I tell you why I haven't been knitting just in a second. So first off, I want to show you this thing. This is the jacket number 20 by Lang Yarn that you have seen in a wet stage last week or 2 weeks ago. So I would just want to try it on for you so you will see the jacket in all its beauty. I'm basically blushing everywhere. This is a tiny spot in my studio room that I still need to set up and put together a little bit better, but this is the jacket. It's two nice pockets and a zipper. So on the pattern, all the specifications have been well described in my previous podcast, but I would like to give you just a very brief run through. It's a pattern for men from Lang Yarn. It's a cardigan. You knit it in pieces, the two fronts, sleeves and back. I have decided to knit the sleeve in the round rather than flat as the pattern describes or recommends. and then at the end you sew them together, you add a zipper in, and that's it basically. It's very beautiful in the picture, and I think would be really beautiful if I choose the right yarn. The yarn that I choose is Drops Lima, which is a combination of wool and alpaca yarn. If I'm correct, it's 75-25. It's a DK weight yarn. It's one of my favorite yarns. It's very inexpensive, and it doesn't tickle at all. It's not scratchy, super soft, but it's alpaca, and I should have known a little bit better just because I did this mistake before. So knitting it up, it became really slouchy. I don't mind because this was meant to be an oversized jacket, but generally I do prefer a tighter, how do you say that, a tighter fit, especially because the photo on this pattern was quite fitted on the model, and in my mind I wanted that type of fit. The gauge was on point, the measurements were on point. The final work, as I tried after knitting it up, was absolutely perfect and nice and fitted. And then I washed it, and the alpaca did its magic. It's not too bad, but yeah, something that we need to review and refine in our knitting is these little points here. I don't know if you can see it from the camera. You see that seems like there is a stitch missing or something, but if I show you the inside, what is that? That is my way of joining yarns together. I never had this problem before of showing the joint so much, and I never change my way of joining yarn together. I just do a little knot. I think this is a magic knot, and then it's joined. In this case, being so light, so alpaca-y, so drapey, I actually showed a little bit the mark where the yarn is joined, and it's bugging me a lot. So the plan for this jumper is, first off, take off the zipper, because I don't know if I did a good job in setting the zipper in. It's a little wobbly, but that can be solved very easily. It's just almost basted there. I didn't do much of a sewing situation. Take off the zipper, try to felt it just a tiny little bit so everything comes back together, and then Bob's your uncle, putting back the zipper and hopefully having a nice little jumper. To be fair, I don't mind if it's a little bit long in the sleeves and on the ribbing on the bottom. It's nice and cozy. I just had in my mind a different idea. Would I recommend the pattern? Certainly I would. I think it's a very well designed pattern, and you know, we always need patterns for boys, and long yarn have a lot of patterns. I'm gonna take this off because it's quite warm over here, and I'll come back to you soon. So the jumper is off, and what else to say about this jumper? Yeah, nothing much. When you work with alpaca, be always mindful that, I don't know now, I'm not an expert in knitting, but I am finding that the gauge loosens quite a bit after washing. So if I go back, I would go probably down a needle size. For this jumper, I used a combination of 3 and 3.75 millimeter needles, which was the size that actually gave me gauge before blocking. Now, we don't have any finished work for this week, and I didn't manage to knit much of my works in progress. If you checked my previous video, I did cast on every single jumper I could find on the internet, so there was quite a bit of knitting. Especially I did custom two cable sweaters, cables jumper. One is the Billy pullover that we're gonna talk about in a second, and the other one was the Saven sweater. And they are both nice full-on cable patterns. Now, I found that knitting quite obsessively on cables, my arm started to feel some pain. And especially when I wasn't knitting. So while knitting, that's completely fine, but then afterwards, the first thing in the morning, feel some pain just over here. Now, I haven't gone to a doctor because this is not painful enough, and I don't like going to doctors. I'm not afraid, but I don't know. It's a thing. I absolutely despise going to the doctor or the dentist. Anyway, I don't know what's going on. Seems a little better now, but still, if I attempt to knit, it's a little bit of a pain down here, and feeling of tightness on my wrist. So I've heard that a lot of knitters complain about tendonitis. Could it be that? I have no idea. Do you have any recommendation for me? For now, I just kind of stopped knitting obsessively. I do knit up a couple of rows a day until the pain comes back. And yeah, that's it. The noise you just heard is my printer that decided to fall asleep right now. So, good night, printer. Anyway, if you have any recommendation for me how to get rid of this pain, or I don't know, not to worsen it, let me know. That would be super helpful. But yeah, that's it. The other thing that made me not be able to knit that much this couple of weeks is because I went to Vienna. As you remember from my previous podcast, I was taking a plane right after filming, so I managed to edit my video while I was at the airport, upload it on the YouTube, and that was quite crazy. Vienna was a beautiful little long weekend. I went there for with the scope to see Pink, the singer. A big fan of Pink, and for some reasons, my friends and I we want to see Pink in concert. We go abroad. I went to Munich last time, and the previous time was another city in Germany, Essen probably, or Düsseldorf or something like that. And this time, as it happens, she was singing in Vienna. So jump on the wagon, went to see her in Vienna. Was an amazing concert. She always does deeply touching concerts, and as well really big and a lot of fun. So if you haven't seen Pink in concert, just go. She's really warm and big heart of a singer type of thing. Apart from the concert, Vienna is always a lovely city. We'll touch base on that later, but if you know where I'm from northern part of Italy, northern east part of Italy, and Vienna is a few hours drive from my house. So since I was a child with my parents, we used to go up to Austria quite a bit, and Vienna was one of the destinations. So I know the city pretty well, and it hasn't disappointed at all. It was meant to be super rainy, but at the end of the day was nice and sunny, wasn't too warm. We had amazing food, a lot of beer, a lot, and yeah, a nice little break. So that didn't make me knit as much as I wanted. But I did manage to knit up a little bit of my Billy pullover. Billy is this pullover here, if I'm right, if you can see the picture, otherwise I will put some photos. And it's a pattern for sale by Sardi Nordlund. It's living now in a tote bag that I got from a grocery shop here. As you know, I don't own any project bag, unfortunately, and I recycle all the things around the house. And this is what we have now. It's basically a tank top. I have almost finished with the body. I think I have another 10 centimeters on the bottom to add until I start my ribbing and then the ribbing itself. So the history of this jumper is quite funny. I was watching a show on Netflix which is called Bad Sister that I absolutely recommend. It's an amazing Irish show, really intriguing. It's a 5 parts or 6 parts story. I'm not gonna tell you the plot of the show because you must watch it. It makes you so uncomfortable. It's great. I never watched something like that, so I'm very happy that I had the chance to watch this, and I'm very happy that this was an Irish production, which is absolutely great for Ireland. It's a brilliant show. So one of the main character was wearing this beautiful green pullover, green top, Aran jumpery type of top, which had this lovely honeycomb pattern almost all over. I did some research and this was the closest that I could find. I am knitting, for reference, the second size up. And I know that this is gonna be tight fitting. I am getting perfect gauge using a combination of 4mm needles for the main pattern and 3.5 for the ribbings. I know it's gonna be tight, but I know this yarn. This is Peer Gynt by Sandnes Garn. It's a decay yarn, 50-gram balls by 90 meters, if I'm correct. And the color is Nougat Tutti Frutti. I know this yarn, and I know that after washing, it might relax that tiny little bit. I don't want this to be a massive Aran jumper. I just want to be nice and fitted. So yeah, here we go. The way it's constructed, you start from the back top, knit a couple of rows, join in the round, casting on stitches for the front of the neck, and then working the raglan decreases and increases for the sleeves, and then top down. Not my favorite construction. You know me, I am a bottom-up type of guy when I knit my jumpers. But yeah, it's always interesting to knit with another construction. Now, Peer Gynt. This is a pure Norwegian wool. It's not the most expensive of the yarns if you live in Europe. If you live in Ireland, if you live in mainland Europe, it's alright. I think it's about €5 a ball. You can find it for $4.50 and so on. I'm not gonna convert that in dollars because we are almost 1-to-1 right now. So in Ireland, you have to pay shipping because we are an island. It tends to be quite more expensive than shipping through mainland Europe. So I end up spending a little bit of money on this yarn. What's the problem, you may ask? The problem is that, once again, we are probably playing yarn chicken. So this yarn eats up a lot. The length, the fabric of this yarn eats up a lot of meterage. And I think I would need perhaps 2 to 3 more balls of yarn to finish the body. And I have already used 10 balls of yarn. Now I have 6 balls to go, which leaves me with 3 balls left after the body. Does this make sense? Now I'm sure with 3 balls I can get 1 sleeve done, but I probably need other 3 balls for the other sleeve, which means I need to buy more yarn. Now, when I bought this yarn, I bought 14 balls altogether because that is usually what makes me get a full-on jumper. But I based this calculation not on poor Sari Northland suggestion for yarn meterage, not on anything, but on my previous jumpers knitted in color work. Now, color work eats up a little bit of yarn, but at the end of the day it's stockinette, so it's way less yarn than this thing here. So my 14 balls of yarn wouldn't last, and I have another jumper quantity of this similar color but a different color with just blue specks. So the next time I place an order will be for the number of balls that will allow me to get the finished work here, and I don't want to compromise this time. I've had plenty of jumpers that were too short, or the sleeves were too short, or something like that, too tight. I just want to make it right. I'm gonna buy a few balls of this color, the nougat, and a few balls of the other Peer Gynt colorway that I have somewhere, so that at least I know that I can make nice cable jumpers. I think this is going to become one of my favorite patterns. I'm already thinking of getting more Peer Gynt yarn to knit another one, probably up a size and probably a dark green or a dark gray. So this was basically it for the knitting. With this pain I'm getting in my arm, I ended up trying to crochet. So I went up for a couple of rows of this blanket that you have seen for sure before in my video. This is a entrelac pattern that I am knitting for a huge blanket. It's almost 2 meters wide. The entrelac pattern is absolutely gorgeous, and it creates a nice tight fabric that I am enjoying very much. The downside is that it's really slow to knit up. But I've noticed that crocheting doesn't give me the pain that knitting does, so it's probably the way I hold my yarn. Now, you may say you tried the Norwegian style knitting. I am already a continental knitter, and I don't think I can trade the speed of knitting that I have in continental knitting with learning a new way to knit. I know it may take some time, and practice will get you better, but yeah. In terms of the other projects, I haven't really done anything, so I still have my Southern sweater by Megan Babin, which is this one. I have another jumper by Arauma on the go, the very yellow one. Pair of socks by Stephen West, and yeah, that's a lot of knitting projects to do. Anyway, I really hope you enjoy this little run through the works that I managed to do this week. If you're interested in a little bit of getting to know me, just stay tuned. Otherwise, I will see you next week. So, questions. I have my Instagram open here with all the questions that I receive, and I have noticed that a good 80% of the questions were personal questions, getting to know me as a person, and a tiny bit of questions were on specific technical knitting things, and the rest just regular knitting preference, yarns and stuff. So I picked a few of the personal questions. I'm usually not sharing personal stuff on the internet, so this is a very vanilla style personal questions and answer session. I don't share anything because I feel like, you know, it's your life. It's already out there a lot, being a YouTuber or being on social media. I just don't want to share about, especially other people. That is not me, and yeah, you got the thing. I do cherish very much, let's say, the value of privacy, and we're very lucky in Europe to be really protected on our privacy. I know that this doesn't happen in the US, for example. So it's a value and a right that I do like to keep. Anyway, a question that came from my lovely friend, fellow Italian knitter, Flaminia. She has an amazing podcast on YouTube, a podcast in English. It's called The Shape of My Art. You can find her on Instagram looking for Knitting Flam. Flaminia is a very young Italian knitter, but she has the skills that I probably will never get in a million years. She is just brilliant, and her choice of yarns, especially, are over the moon, just fantastic. I don't know how she does that. Seriously, I'm just trying to learn every day, but she seems to get it straight away. So check her out, check out her podcast, and please say hi from me as well. Always helps a little bit to raise awareness on the community of podcasters. Anyway, Flaminia asks me if in this point in time I see myself going back to Italy. And my answer is no. I came to Ireland almost 10 years ago after I finished my first part of my studies. And this will answer, by the way, another question, which is why did I decide to come to Ireland rather than other countries? I came here because I loved Ireland very much, and I have a cousin that moved here many years ago. So when I was a kid, I used to come over to Ireland to visit her, learning a little bit of English, and yeah. So these trips made me fall in love with Ireland. I remember one of the feelings that I had when I used to come here as a tourist was how pure the air was, how fresh and green everything was. And I used to come here over summer, and you leave an Italian summer which is really hot to come to a place which is really cold. So it was a big impact for a small child, and then growing up I kept visiting. I built a little bit of a friends group in Ireland, and then yeah, it was always my dream eventually to spend a good chunk of time here, and I ended up staying as well, so there must be something. Would I feel like going back? For sure. You know, home is home, so eventually I will go back to Italy. I don't know if in a permanent basis, or a dream of mine is to be able to become a freelancer, I don't know if an artist, illustrator, or something like that, and be able to work at least 6 months of my working time here, 6 months of my working time over there, to be this type of flexible. That would be absolutely lovely. Won't happen tomorrow, won't happen probably in 10 years. My parents are quite young. We have a vineyard over there in Italy, a farm with a vineyard, and they're still managing. They're very young, so whenever my grandparents are not around, and perhaps my dad need a little bit of a help with the farm and the vineyard, I might think of spending longer times over there. But yeah, my job right now doesn't allow too much of flexibility on that. So if you know about someone that needs a professional artist and is able to pay my wages, let me know, because this is really a dream of mine. Good. So we answer, I think, 2 questions around why I moved to Ireland and what's the situation with moving back to Italy. Another question that I have received quite a bit is, how is the knitting community in Ireland, and especially towards boys knitting? This is a difficult question for me to answer because I do not have a knitting community in Ireland or anywhere, to be honest, apart from this and you guys. I don't have a knitting group or an evening of knitting or nothing like that. I am really struggling with time management, to be honest, because I'm working 24/7, carving sometimes to paint or to film this video, and then at night I'm knitting. If I have to think of taking the car and going out to a knitting group, I mean, it's possible. I would love to meet some knitters in real life, especially the people that I was able to know through the internet over these couple of years in which I've been sharing my knitting. But it's tough. It is tough. How's the feeling about knitting, the knitting community towards boys knitting? I think it would be great. I have no idea because I haven't experienced it, but Ireland is quite of an open society, and a few people that I knew on the internet, there are boys that are from Ireland that knit. They seem to be fine themselves, so I think it's a great place to be as a knitter. We have a desperate lack of knitting shops. Yeah, if you are a business person out there and you want to start a knitting shop in Ireland, I'm sure you're gonna make the money, because we don't have many. We have a few, but they tend to carry just a regular commercial yarn, a lot of acrylic, which I don't like. On the other flip side, we do have a lot of indie dyers, which is great. So yeah, hopefully this answers your question. In terms of a personal question, the last one that I have put on my list here is around my daily job. I think I did mention this before in my other Q&A, where I was telling you that I'm a lawyer and that I'm a pianist and all of those things. So what's my daily job? I am a lawyer. And I work in a technology company. This is no secret. Like, if you go onto my LinkedIn profile, you will see everything. I work for a technological company, a communication internet-based company, and I look after privacy, security, all those beautiful things. It's a job that I do enjoy, and that I do enjoy. Let's leave it there. I used to work before for another technological company, working with contracts and advertisement, the legal side of advertisement, and that was quite interesting just because I was in touch with so many people from other countries and getting to know the advertisement scene, legal frames in other country, even far away. Like I remember a case I was involved in was Japan. Like it was very interesting. So I know that my current job gives me a lot of possibility of growing in the future, but you know, it's not the job that you do because you desperately love it. Why am I not working in a law firm or going to court every day? Just because, you know, salary happens, and one gets to decide the best salary that can pay the bills, and that's the bottom line. I'm not gonna invent some excuse that I don't like wearing a lawyer's robe, or I don't feel comfortable in dealing with feelings and people. That's not true. It's just basically bottom line salary, and this job here gives me good amount of flexibility, working from home a lot of times, and yeah, it's an interesting subject enough to get on. Hopefully this answers your question. I'm boring, I know. Knitting. Let's talk about knitting a little bit. So one question was, this person is having difficulties in finding a fisherman ribs jumper for men. If I have some recommendation. I know I'm looking at my phone a lot, but the recommendations are written here, so I'll try to put all the informations here down in the description. Hopefully they are good enough. So I haven't knitted a fisherman's rib sweater myself. That's the bottom line, although I have done some research. And it seems like in terms of projects, in terms of numbers of people that made these patterns that I'm going to tell you, and in terms of availability of the patterns, these are kind of the best that I could find. So the first one is the Fisherman Sweater by Alice Stramore, and this has 60 projects on Ravelry. It's a nice yoki type of fisherman sweater, and from what I can see in the picture, it has a lovely motif on the middle of the chest and goes down in stockinette. It's written for female, but I think this pattern can be applied to men as well. It recommends sport weight yarn, and the suggested yarn is Rowan Designer DK. The pictures look amazing. It's quite slouchy, it's quite big as a jumper, but I'm sure with minimal effort it can be redesigned for men. A couple of things, if you decide to knit this pattern or any other pattern for women, just to remind yourself of the shape of a male body. It's like a V shape. We tend to have larger shoulders and smaller hips. So a good idea that I found works every time is to decreasing on the underarm side if you're working top down, or increasing. Start with a lower number of stitches if you're working bottom up, the stitches down here. So then you create a smaller circumference as you go. Be careful not to do that too much. It happened to me that I did like a funnel type of thing and that didn't work. I would say decreasing 4 to 8 stitches is the maximum that I can recommend. And if you go with that shape, that usually works. Then, of course, measurements like sleeves length and body length and yoke length. But that is something that you would measure on your person, the person you're knitting for. The next one, actually I might start knitting myself whenever I find the yarn, is the Greenish sweater by Rowan. It's knitted in alpaca soft DK. This is a full Fisherman ribs sweater. Looks like has a raglan construction. And the thing from looking at the photo is that there is an opening between the two hems on the bottom, the waist, and the front is shorter than the back. Now, in terms of modification here, if I would knit this for myself, is to go down straight, maybe decreasing as I just said, not keeping the hem open, and knitting both the front and back on the same length. That's the only thing. It looks like a lovely sweater. The other thing is the sleeves. Seems to be puffy sleeves as well, which would be fine to me for a male jumper, being the jumper really with a lot of positive ease. If you don't want that, apply the same idea of decreasing for the body. Just decrease underneath your sleeve towards the cuff, and that will solve the issue of having baggy sleeves. I really hope these two questions, these two answers help you. It's an interesting technique. I never knitted the fisherman's rib, so I really would like to try myself. If you have any recommendations, any jumpers that I couldn't find on the internet, I'm sure there are so many, please send a comment down here, and I'm sure the person that asked the question would find a lot of benefit in knowing and having some more answers down there. Staying on the jumper knitting situation, someone asked me, how long does it take you to knit a sweater? So, in normal circumstances, if I knit a sweater using DK yarn, it takes me about 3 to 4 weeks. I never knitted with ironway yarn, so I can't say that, but a regular colorwork jumper, 3 to 4 weeks tops. Usually the biggest part is the body. That always takes so much time, and then the sleeves, I generally do 1 sleeve a day. It's quite fast. If I knit with fingering weight or 4-ply, will be probably, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks. Sometimes happened, it took a lot longer, but because, you know, this is not a job and I'm knitting a few hours at night time, I'm very pleased with my speed of knitting. So I think if you manage to have, I don't know, 10 jumpers every year, that is 10 jumpers more than you probably would need. So I'm quite happy with that. Yeah, I'm pleased with that. I know there are people out there that knit super fast, but yeah, this is what it is. Pair of socks, for example, would take me anything between a few days and a week to knit up. Now, having said that, in these type of circumstances, with travel, with my arm not being 100%, probably takes a lot longer. Yeah, that's the thing. So, favorite yarns is another question that I had. I answered this question before, but I keep receiving it. So I would like to give you a different flair on the favorite yarn. Before I was talking about a brand. comments saying that probably my favorite yarn is Holst yarn, super soft wool, because it's a magical yarn. Recently I got to knit more with Peer Gynt by Sandnes Garn, which has become another of my favorite yarn in decay weight. What are the characteristics that make me love a yarn? First of all is the quality of the wool. It must be pure wool, or a combination of alpaca and wool would work as well, but if it's 100% wool, that is the pinnacle, the top tier. The rougher the better usually. And the price range must be affordable. This is not my job, my everyday job, although I'm dribbling into becoming a designer as well. I have a few patterns already, but I don't make any money out of those, which doesn't allow me to spend a lot of money on yarn itself. So having a pure wool yarn and at the same time having a nice price range, that are the two characteristics that really makes me love a yarn. In terms of weight, this was the flair that I wanted to give you this time on the yarn. I, for the longest time, have loved fingering weight yarn because it allows me to recreate very lightweight garments that are quite similar to the ones you may buy in the shops, which is great. And you can wear them around, people won't see that they are handmade. I know, this is not good, but at the same time, I like the feeling of wearing a nice jumper. It doesn't need to scream handmade, you know what I mean. Currently though, I'm finding a bit of love for decay weight yarn. It's faster to knit, and I'm getting a bit into cable knitting. So decay yarn is becoming more and more amongst my favorite type of yarn. I used before Drops Charisma, which is a decayed pure wool yarn, and I didn't like it for some reason. There's nothing wrong, it's super cheap and it's pure wool, which brings my two requirements together. But it has a feeling of a plastic. Although it's not super wash, I have no idea. I didn't enjoy knitting with it, and I especially didn't enjoy wearing it. I might be changing my mind if I probably need another jumper with Drops Charisma in the future. I don't know, we'll see. Currently, my favorite is Peer Gynt here. I am looking for another affordable decay pure wool type of yarn that is not going to cost me more than 5-6 euro a ball. That would be a great idea. So if you have any recommendation for me, let me know. Having said that, I think still my favorite weight of yarn is fingering weight or 4-ply. I do love making jumpers in sock yarn, although I haven't done that for a long time. I feel like they're very sturdy, they are nice and woolly at the same time, and I do like the lightness of the fabric. You know, Ireland, although it's a colder country, it's not that cold, never goes under zero, or so very seldom. So we don't really wear big, heavy clothing, big snowy jackets, big jumpers, at least on this side of the island. Probably if you go to the other side, it's a different story. But, you know, I like a nice light fabric, warm when it's required to be warm, but not over heavy and over warm. I really hope this answers your question. And I'm seeing on the little clock there that we have filmed for about an hour. So I leave it for now, like here, and please consider to subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this type of videos, and yeah, this helps very much the videos. Also, I have started a little bit of a subscription type of account, so you can subscribe to this account. I think it works like a Patreon type of thing, and I am publishing behind the scenes little tiny videos and other content that you may find interesting, and this will support this channel. You know, I said before, I need a new computer and I'm looking for a way to support this channel as well. So we're now done with the content, the main content. But one of the things that I was announcing this before was that we need to redraw the winner of the first prize, which is a 30 euro gift card for yarn that the lovely Susan from the Wild Cottage Ireland Knitting Podcast kindly and generously sent to the Rainbow KAL. This prize was assigned, but generously, again, the person that received the prize decided to re-gift it to the KAL. So I went back to my spreadsheet with all your submissions and your comment, and the result is Gabs and Kay from Sleep Sis, which is sleep.sleep.sis on Instagram. Now, I am not going to send you an email, a message, or anything, because I know that some hackers are on me and on other podcasters asking for information. So please, if you are watching this video and you would like this beautiful prize, send me a message on Instagram or an email at irishfarmart@gmail.com, and I will arrange the voucher. It's an online thing, so we're not sharing any information here. But please do not respond to solicitation on messages or on comments. That is not me, it's a fraudster. So once again, the person that won, or the people I suppose that won this prize, is on Instagram, sleep.sis with dots. Sleep.sis. Yeah, thank you so much once again for watching. I'll see you very soon. Bye bye.